With grocery prices going up around the world and here in Australia, I wanted to sense check if it's actually worth having a Costco membership in September, almost October of 2025. Tag along in this video. I'm going to show you the breakdown of what I got at Costco recently, including the membership cost and what this would have cost you if you went to Coles, Woolworths or Aldi instead. So without further ado, let's dive in and let me show you what I got. Well, hello there friends. If you love saving money on groceries and learning new hacks on how to save even more money on groceries, make sure to give this video a thumbs up. I love hanging out with you here, and feel free to subscribe if you haven't done that already. I have a whole playlist of clearance grocery hauls and things like that, which I will link up here for you if you want to check out some of my other ones that I've done. And if you're here for the recipes and don't really want to talk about grocery budgets, well, click on that link up there for recipe inspiration on that playlist. But I bet you're here because you want to know if it's actually worth having a Costco membership in 2025 in Australia. It is, this was filmed in September, late September 2025, and I had not been to Costco for years, but it had been a bit of a niggly thought in the back of my head. I have a lot of friends of mine who are members at Costco, so I did bite the bullet and buy a membership. And let me talk through the things that I got, the things that I didn't get, and the differences in price if you would have picked these items up on either at Coles, Woolworths or Aldi instead of Costco. So without further ado, let's dive in and talk about the membership first. I want to say up front that this is 100% unsponsored. I have nothing to do with Costco other than being a member, which I paid for with my own money. So how Costco works, if you've never been to a Costco before, is that you pay an annual membership, either an individual or a business membership, and then you and one other person from your household or a guest, if you will, can get access to the store so that you can purchase things at the discounted rates that Costco offer. Now they have everything from alcohol to technology to clothing. I picked up some pillows when we were there, which is not going to be included in the grocery budget, but they sell all sorts of things. The cheapest membership for Costco in Australia right now is $65 a year. And if you're watching from another country, I will put down here on the screen what 65 Australian dollars is in some other common currencies, just so you can compare if you're interested. So needless to say, if you're going to shop at Costco, it has to be worth at least 65 bucks worth of savings across the year. Otherwise, you basically haven't broken even on your membership. Now, the way I worked out my membership cost as well is that I live a little drive away from my nearest Costco. There are a bunch of Costcos, well, not a bunch, there's a few Costcos available near Melbourne where I live, and I don't pass one all that often. So how I worked my membership out is that I'm paying $65 a year. I'm just referring to my trusty paper here. And in reality, I will probably go to Costco every second month because you've got to factor in things like fuel and other things as well if you're going out of your way. But I will be near one of these Costcos at least every second month. So if I do 6 shops per year on my $65 membership, that works out to $10.83 per shop that it has to kind of be worth it. Now you could shop there all the time. You could shop a lot less. I have a friend who lives like around the corner from one and she goes there all the time. But that's essentially how I thought about the membership in order for it to feel worth it for me. The other thing to consider is obviously that Costco is based on bulk sizes. So you will see in this shop that everything is big. If you've never been to Costco before, everything is big. Peanut butter, pickles, maybe not milk cartons, which I ended up buying normal 1 liters, but a lot of the packaging is huge. So you need to have somewhere to store this in your pantry, in your fridge, or in your freezer. And I've got an exciting upgrade to my pantry, which I'll show you in a little bit. But essentially you need somewhere to store these items, and don't be tempted or too tempted by the large packaging, because if you've got nowhere to store it and you're going to live in a crazy crammed house because of these bargains, it may not be worth the saving just for your peace of mind and your enjoyment of your space. I have a pretty big pantry and I'll show you here on the screen what that looks like, and especially my pantry canned goods shelf, as well as where I'm storing the milk that I picked up, is pretty packed at the moment. I'm pretty stoked with the haul that we did because all the things that we bought are things that we're going to use. Since going to Costco, I have also upgraded and got a small chest freezer here in my pantry. I'll do a detailed tour on that at in terms of what I store in there and how I organize it, because a notorious thing with chest freezers is that they're very hard to organize and keep track of what you've got in there. So that's where I'm storing all my stuff. But now let's dive into the pricing. So this was my first visit to Costco in at least 7 or 8 years. I went years and years ago with a friend who had a membership back then, but I was single at the time, living in a very small apartment. So from memory, I didn't pick up an awful lot of things that time, but it was a fun experience. So I kind of knew what to experience when I walked in, but you're basically walking into a ginormous warehouse and it is busy all the time. We went on a Sunday afternoon, which was really, really packed. So it was a little bit hard to film in there, but I will obviously be including some footage of what the experience was like. So in total for this shop, I spent $340.08 on the food items. I have not included some of the whiskey that my husband picked up, and I did not include the new pillows that I hadn't planned on buying, but we needed new pillows for the master bedroom. If I would have bought these same items at Coles or Woolies, because let's face it, I'll include a comparison throughout this video for Aldi as well, but Aldi doesn't have a lot of these brands, so it didn't feel like a fair comparison. But I would have paid $74.89 more just for this shop alone. And remembering that my annual membership is $65, so in one shop, I have already paid off what the membership cost would have been. If I wanted to be precise and say, well, Emmy, you said you're going to go 6 times a year, so that is $10.83 per shop. So if I deduct that off my total, I would have paid $64.06 more if I went to if I went to Coles or Woolworths instead. So that's a pretty big saving. So yeah, I basically made my money back in my first visit. But let's talk about the clincher before we dive into the detail. A saving is only a saving if you know your prices. I talk about this all the time, and I mentioned it in a recent video I did for Not Quite Right, which is a clearance grocery place available near where I live. You need to know your price per unit, because what every store will do is that they'll have big signs with big numbers, and they're almost designed to confuse you. So unless you know per 100 gram, per kilo, per ounce, per pound, per liter, per milliliter, whatever you measure in the part of the world where you are, it can be really difficult. So what I did as I was walking through Costco is I actually had my phone handy and I was looking at Aldi and Coles, because I find that both of their websites are pretty good nowadays, so you can look pretty quickly what the price is there. So I made a couple of on-the-spot decisions of things to pick up or not pick up based on that. But that's essentially it. You've got to be really mindful that you know your prices, because otherwise I could have potentially come home with a lot more things. And I'll show you in this video. There were things that I bought that were not at all cheaper. And had I done more of my searching in the store, I probably wouldn't have picked those items up. So now I know for next time. The other really key thing is a saving is only a saving if it's something you're gonna eat and something that your family likes. Because I see it time and time again, people stocking up on things like huge amounts of things, you know, like a certain kind of shampoo that's on clearance or whatever. And then you've got 12 bottles, but you don't actually like that, you know, or you buy the humongous pump size of shower soap or whatever that is. Same goes for things like cat food and other things. Like if you buy this big bulk and then your cat doesn't actually like it and eat it, it is wasteful. You can obviously donate it to a charity or something, but a saving is only a saving if it's something you're actually going to use and eat. So with all that said, and all the savings we could make, we are going to hop into my office. I'm going to show you a side-by-side comparison of some of the surprising things that I saved heaps on, some of the things I saved nothing on, and quite a few things that I left on the shelves and did not pick up. So let's dive into the shop and I'll show you the nitty-gritty detail. All right, so let's look at all the prices in a little bit more detail, because I bet you're curious as to what I did get and what I actually saved on those particular items. So the first thing I needed that I haven't been getting a lot of in my fruit and veg box is apples. I go through a lot of apples, and I was making an apple crumble for guests that we were having the day after I went to Costco. So I needed apples, and I did a quick comparison. So they had these Kanzi apples, which were worked out of $5.50 per kilo, or $10.99 for 2 kilos. The same item would have cost $7.50 a kilo at Coles, $7.50 a kilo at Woolworths, and at Aldi it would have been $6.24 a kilo. So at $5.50 a kilo, this was really cheap if this is the kind of apples that you like in your family. Similar thing for Jas apples. They were $11.99 for 2 kilos or $6 a kilo. At Coles, this would have cost you $6.90 a kilo. Woolies would have been $7.50 a kilo, and they didn't have Jas apples when I checked the Aldi website online, so it's not applicable there. Granny Smith apples, which are not a favorite of mine, but I know many of you and many of your kids, I'm sure, will eat them in their lunch boxes and stuff. They had 2 kilos for $6.49, which works out at $3.25 a kilo. This would have cost you $5.90 at Coles per kilo, $4.90 a kilo at Woolworths, and $4.99 a kilo at Aldi. So definitely a much better deal when you buy it at Costco. Pink Lady apples, which is one of my favorites, they were huge. I don't know if I got a video of it, but they were humongous. They were like tiny watermelon size, and I was like, I'm not gonna be able to eat this. But anyway, they worked out at $9.99 for 2 kilos, which is $5 a kilo. And this was actually not as good of a deal because you can get Pink Lady apples at Coles for $3.90 per kilo. Same at Woolworths, $3.90, and $4.99 at Aldi when I checked their website. So $5 a kilo was not cheaper. You could get it cheaper at Coles or Woolies. But what I did pick up was these snacking apples because they looked really small and sweet, and I thought it'd be really nice in that apple crumble. And I have been snacking on these apples for weeks. They're really, really yummy. So they were $8.99 for 2 kilos, and that works out to $4.50 per kilo. I couldn't find a comparable thing for these types of apples at Coles or Woolies, but Aldi have these red apples, which came in at $3.99 a kilo. So it actually wasn't cheaper to go to Costco, but it meant that I didn't have to stop anywhere else, so I didn't save any money on that. Moving over to potatoes. We eat a lot of potatoes in this household, and whilst I get some in my fruit and veg delivery, it's rarely enough for us. So I try to stock up when I can, and I'll talk you through when I do my kitchen tour on how I store potatoes to get them to last as long as possible. But at Costco, they had these brushed potatoes in a 5 kilo bag for $9.99, which works out at $2 a kilo. If you would have bought the same thing, brushed potatoes, the cheapest I could find at Coles was $2.25 per kilo if you buy a 4 kilo bag, which is quite big. I couldn't find brushed potatoes on the Woolies website, or they might have run out of them or something when I checked the prices. But at Aldi you can get a 3 kilo bag, and then you'd be paying $2 a kilo for brushed potatoes. So Costco and Aldi actually came out the same here, a little bit more for Coles. For Kestrel potatoes, if I'm pronouncing that right, it was $12.99 for 5 kilos, which works out at $2.60 a kilo. The same item at Coles would have cost you $3.50 per kilo. And both Woolies and Aldi did not have this particular kind of potatoes available for me to check on their website. With white potatoes, probably one of my favorites other than sweet potato, which I also love, was 5 kilos for $11.99. That works out at $2.40 per kilo. This would cost you $3.95 a kilo if you went to Coles, the cheapest I could find. $2.49 per kilo if you bought a 4 kilo bag at Woolies, and $3.50 a kilo if you bought it at Aldi. Now I know sometimes they will have special deals and things like that if you go through this and you get it on sale, but these are the prices I could find. So on this, compared to if I would have got this at Woolies, which was the cheapest option, I still saved 46 cents in total on this shop on the same amount of things. So not a huge saving, but again, I didn't have to stop anywhere else, so I was quite happy with that. For carrots, I'm actually growing carrots in my veggie patch this year, so I've got little seedlings at the moment that are starting to make their way up, so I'm looking forward to see if I can grow some own carrots. But carrots are not expensive. This giant 5 kilo bag at Costco was $4.99, which works out at $1.66 a kilo. It actually is not cheaper than Coles. Actually, the I'm Perfect or Imperfect brand came in at $1.33 per kilo, which was the cheapest I could see there. $1.60 a kilo at Woolworths if you get the Odd Bunch brand. and Aldi at the time had it for $2.09 per kilo, but I've often seen carrots at Aldi for $1.99 a kilo. Next up, we had a quick look in the fruit and veg aisle. It was pretty manic in the fridge section where they've got like spinach and lettuce and things like that. And I'm actually growing my own lettuce at the moment, so I didn't pick this up. But they had baby Cost lettuce for $4.99 for a 4-pack, which works out at $1.25 per head. And if you were to go to Coles, it would have been $1.45 each per head, $1.25 at Woolies, so same price, and $1.50 each at Aldi. So I didn't pick this up and I didn't think it was a great deal. Next up, we headed over and I had a look at the minced beef, and the beef mince was $10.99 per kilo at Costco, which is a pretty good deal, because if you go anywhere else, Coles, you can get it for beef mince, sort of the cheaper, not the lean one, but the normal sort of 3-star one. You can get that for about $12 a kilo at the moment, and the same at Woolworths. And when I checked the Aldi price online, it was $11.49 a kilo. But I do feel like I've seen it slightly cheaper at Aldi. So I didn't pick this up. I might pick this up next time now that I have a chest freezer to portion freeze it in. But I will have a look and compare the prices at the time. My husband is a big lover of steak, and he really wanted to have a look at the meat section. So we found this ribeye steak for $53.99 per kilo. And again, this is obviously something, we didn't pick it up this time, but it's something that you can pick up and then obviously store in your freezer. So you can save a fair bit of money if that's something you like to eat. It wasn't the best deal, and it was really hard to find the equivalent like ribeye steak at Coles and Woolies, but I have been told that Scotch fillet steak is similar. So at Coles, you'd pay $50 a kilo. You'd pay between $44 and $52 a kilo for Scotch fillet at Woolies, and $31.99 per kilo at Aldi. So whilst this might be better quality, the cut that you get at Costco, I wouldn't know enough about it, but it is not a better deal price-wise. In the fruit section, I needed some mandarins. We go through a lot of mandarins, a lot of vitamin C in this household. And so they had these honey murcot mandarins for $7.99 for 2 kilos, which works out at $4 a kilo. I couldn't find honey murcot ones on either the Coles or the Woolies website, but if you went to Aldi, you would pay $4.39 a kilo, so a smidge more than Costco. I did pick these up. I saved a little bit obviously, but I didn't really love these. They had a lot of pips and they weren't great quality, so I probably won't pick these up again. They came in one of those big nets, and even though I do try to check the produce, sometimes, you know, it's not as good as you'd hoped for. The Afora mandarins were $7.99 for 2 kilos, also worked out at $4 a kilo. And at Coles, this would be $3.50 a kilo. I didn't find any on the Woolies website. They might have run out when I checked these prices. And this type of mandarin would have cost you $5.32 a kilo at Aldi. So it's cheaper at Coles than at Costco and much more expensive at Aldi, funnily enough. So I didn't pick this up, but maybe these would have been tastier and juicier than the other ones, so maybe that's what I should have done. All right, moving along to cheese. We love cheese platters in this household, but we don't often buy the huge cheeses, even though they last very well in your fridge. So they had this triple cream brie cheese for $22.99, which works out at $50.64 per kilo, which sounds crazy, right? Like, who buys a kilo of cheese? I mean, I love cheese, but anyway, I did struggle to find this brand, but a similar brand, a home brand of a triple brie cheese at Coles would cost you $25 a kilo. So again, this is probably that quality aspect. Like, you know, there's a whole range from home brand all the way up to specific brands. Similar thing at Woolies, $25 a kilo for a triple cream brie, again, sort of a home or a cheaper brand, and $22.45 for Aldi's equivalent of the home brand. So whilst this triple brie might be better quality from Costco, you'd kind of have to taste your way through. But in terms of pricing, you're not really saving lots. They also had a truffle cheddar for $14.99, which works out at $37.48 a kilo. I had a look for truffle cheddar on the other websites, and Coles have one for $40 a kilo, so quite a bit more, $10 more. I couldn't find any equivalent truffle cheddar on Woolies or Aldi's websites, so they may not sell this. One thing I did pick up in the cheese section was this mozzarella cheese pair or block, whatever you want to call it, for $13.99 per kilo. I use this for a particular recipe and I have heaps left. We've been using it for pizzas and all sorts of things. You can obviously shred this up as well and freeze it if you needed to. But at $13.99 a kilo, this was a really good deal, because at Coles you'd pay $15.60 for the equivalent per kilo. You'd pay $17.14 per kilo at Woolies and $14.26 at Aldi. So a small saving if you normally go to Aldi, which I do, but yeah, not a bad deal. Continuing on with the meat, I did check out this rotisserie chicken, which was $7.99 for about 1.35 kilos. And I hear all the time from all my viewers in the US, and I follow the Frugal Fit Mom, and she often says that the Costco rotisserie chicken is a steal of a deal. So at $7.99 for a pre-cooked chicken, it is a pretty good deal, because if you went to Coles, you'd pay $12.25 for their roast chicken, and I'm not really sure, without going into the store, I'm not really sure about the weight that you actually get, but assuming it would be similar. Aldi doesn't sell this, and Woolies didn't have a price available online for theirs, because I think you can only pick theirs up in the store. So it is a pretty good deal if you wanted a quick dinner and everyone's hangry after the Costco haul. You could definitely pick this up. As a Swede, I love my fish and I love my salmon, and the double smoked salmon was $15.99 for 300 grams, which works out to $53.30 a kilo. If you were to go to one of the other supermarkets, you would be paying $84 a kilo for the equivalent at Coles, $60 a kilo if you went to Woolies, and at Aldi it would be $49.95 per kilo. So you can get a different brand for cheaper at Aldi than you can at Costco. I will probably be picking this up next time I go, because we've got Swedish family coming to visit us for Christmas, and we love our smoked fish. So I reckon I'm going to pick some of this up at Costco and get the slightly better quality one. Might even see if I can freeze it, or I might go closer to Christmas and just keep it in my refrigerator. But yeah, definitely worth checking that out. With frozen salmon portions, we go through a lot of salmon in this house. It's one of our favorite easy dinners for my husband and I. We just do some veg or some salad with some salmon. I even turned it into a random salmon burger in a recent video. I will link that video up here on top of the screen if you want to check that out. But I had one salmon portion left and I turned it into a salmon burger, and it was absolutely delicious. Best leftovers in a while. Anywho, these wild salmon portions worked out at $59.99 for 1.36 kilos. That's $44.11 per kilo at Costco. If you went to Coles, you'd pay $52 a kilo for the salmon, frozen salmon portions that I could find. Woolies, you can get them for $29.50, different brand, but $29.50 per kilo. And Aldi, which I buy all the time, is $27.99 per kilo. So Aldi is definitely a lot cheaper, but we will probably pick this one up from Costco next time, because the quality looked really amazing and the sizes of the fillets were a bit bigger than what you get at Aldi, even if it's the same weight. So that is something I will be picking up next time, even if you pay a few dollars more at Costco. Continuing with frozen things, we love frozen berries, and specifically frozen blueberries in smoothies and things like that. And my husband found this giant 2-kilo bag of blueberries at Costco for $18.99, which works out at $9.49 per kilo. And I actually didn't know if this was a good deal or not, but he was adamant he wanted it, so he picked it up, and he actually did a pretty good job, because at Coles it would cost $11.40 a kilo for frozen blueberries. It would be $11 a kilo at Woolworths, and $10.38 per kilo at Aldi. So this was actually a pretty decent saving all up. And now that we have more freezer space, I'm very happy to fill it with frozen berries and yummy things to put in our smoothies. One steal of a deal was these 4 frozen gluten-free pizza bases at Julian's brand. If you haven't watched my channel before, my husband is gluten-free and I'm lazy, so we both eat gluten-free except from normal bread because regular bread is a lot cheaper. But when it comes to pizzas and we're sharing, we just use gluten-free bases because it's easier. So this was $11.99 for just over a kilo. So that works out to $1.36 per 100 grams for these bases. So there were 4 in the package. If you went to Coles, you would be paying $2.27 per 100 gram for a gluten-free pizza base equivalent. At Woolworths, it would be a whopping $3.61 per 100 gram. And Aldi, unfortunately, to this day, don't sell gluten-free pizza bases. They do sell gluten-free bread, which has gotten slightly better. But this was a whopping saving of $13.88 to go to Costco. So we will definitely be buying 1, if not 2 of these packets next time. We tried them just last week. They were really delicious, really filling. We typically usually do pizzas with these sort of thin gluten-free Lebanese breads, which means we need 3 or 4 between the 2 of us. But with these, we only really need 1 pizza each for a very filling and very hearty meal. All right, moving right along to coffee beans. We actually got a Ninja blender that has a coffee grinder attachment to it. So we now grind our own coffee beans for our pour over coffees. And this coffee came in at $17.99 a kilo. Whilst I couldn't find exactly the same brand at Coles, Woolies and Aldi, it is actually much of a muchness. So it's $18 a kilo for sort of the cheapest beans you can get at Coles. I'm assuming the Costco beans would be slightly nicer than that, so you're probably paying a bit less for better quality. But $18 at Coles, $18 a kilo at Woolies, and $17.99 a kilo at Aldi. So the coffee bean price is about the same, but again, depending what brand you prefer. Next up, I was looking in the spice aisle and I am always amazed just these giant, I mean, if you're running a restaurant, that's fine. And maybe for some of you going through taco seasoning or peppercorn, you can go through this much. But I thought it would be interesting to just take a random sample. So I looked at the peppercorn, the whole peppercorn, which were $9.69 for 300 grams. That works out to 24 cents per 10 gram, which seems to be how spices are calculated. If you went to Coles, you would be paying 28 cents per 10 gram, and the same at Woolies, 28 cents per 10 gram. Whereas Aldi doesn't sell the loose peppercorn, you have to get this like peppercorn grinder, which would be work out at 78 cents per 10 grams, which is obviously. So anyway, I didn't pick this up. We normally just buy a bag from Coles or Woolies and it lasts us a good while. If you ran a restaurant or if you were a pepper or spice fan, I'm sure you could find some really good deals in this aisle, but we didn't pick anything up. One thing I use a fair bit is red or green curry paste, and they had this I Am brand, which was $5.99 for 2 jars of 195 grams each. So this works out at $1.54 per 100 grams. If you were to get the same items at, same brand even, at Coles, it would be $2.05 per 100 gram, and the same at Woolies, $2.05. So it is definitely cheaper by 50 cents or so per unit. But I didn't pick this up because I normally just go to Aldi, and the Aldi cheaper brand, which is not comparable, I'm not sure actually, I'm not a connoisseur when it comes to curry paste, but they sell it for the equivalent of $1.02 per 100 grams. So whilst it's a home brand equivalent and it's a lot cheaper, again, it depends on the quality that you're sort of looking for. Moving along to eggs, we eat a lot of eggs in this household, and we saw all these people. It took me a while to find the egg fridge because it was so busy when we went to this Costco on a Sunday afternoon. Note to self, I will have to do better next time. They had free range eggs for $18.49 for a 24 pack. But to stay consistent, I looked at the cost per 100 gram. And this actually works out to $1.64 per 100 gram, which is not actually that cheap, because if you get free range eggs at Coles, it's 94 cents per 100 gram. Same at Woolies, 94 cents, and 88 cents per 100 gram at Aldi. So the free range eggs were not cheaper. but I did actually pick up, I normally buy free range, but I found these cage-free barn eggs, so meaning that at least the poor chickens had a chance to roam around in a barn. They worked out to $13.69 for a count of 30, which is 78 cents per 100 gram. This was slightly cheaper. Equivalent at Coles would have been 84 cents per 100 gram. Same at Woolies, and Aldi don't sell this. They only have caged eggs or free range eggs. But it's much of a muchness. I did pick this up because we needed eggs, but I don't know that it's worth it. You do save a little bit of money, but not enough to really make it worth a trip to Costco, I think. Another thing we have a lot of in this house is long life milk. I know some of you prefer your fresh milk, but for us it's just easier to do long life. And I did pick up this almond milk from Milk Lab, which is a name brand. It was $32.99 or $4.12 per litre. The same brand at Coles is a whopping $8, so double the price. Same thing at Woolies is $5.50 a litre, and Aldi don't sell this, but I normally get the almond milk from there, which I think worked out at $2.99 per litre for more of a barista brand. So it's not really comparable, but again, Aldi is obviously cheaper, but you know, it's all about how important a name brand is to you. For the long life skim milk that my husband has, we bought a 10 count for $16.99, which works out at $1.69 a litre. This same brand at Coles is $2.20 a litre, and it's $2 a litre at Woolworths. Aldi doesn't have this exact brand, but it's $1.85 a litre for skim milk with their home brand, which is the one we would normally buy. So I guess, you know, okay, not too bad. We do like our tuna in this household, and I try to buy normally these larger cans, and I saw a count of 6 of John West tuna, which is the brand we both prefer. My husband prefers it a lot more. It was $27.99 for 6 times 425 gram, which is a large can, which is $4.66 per can. The same can, same brand at Coles would be $5.50, and the same at Woolworths. So a substantial saving for that. With the brand that I normally get from Aldi, it's $4.49, but I do actually think you can taste the difference. So I'm really happy for $4.66 a can at Costco. I do think it was worth it. So I did end up picking that up. We talked about pizzas before. We do love our olives in this household, on pizzas, in salads, and all sorts of things. And my husband found this giant jar of Kalamata olives, 1.5 kilos worth. It's going to crash my fridge shelf, I tell you, for $12.99, which is basically $8.66 per kilo. The same, well, not the same exact brand, but a similar brand at Coles would cost you $10.14 a kilo. $7.25 a kilo at Woolies, and at Aldi you'd be paying $7.11 per kilo, but that is sort of the Aldi home brand. So I actually am really excited. We had these the other day with the pizza bases we spoke about earlier, and the flavor was really, really lovely. So again, I do think that by paying about $1 more than Aldi, I'm still getting a better quality and better flavors. So I was okay with that. And that jar is going to last us forever. And then I needed some basic canned goods and things. So diced tomatoes, we picked up a 12 count of these 400 gram cans for $10.99, which works out at 91 cents per can. This is a tricky one, right? Because I couldn't find this exact brand at Coles or Woolies online, but it's $95 a can for a 400 ml diced tomatoes at Coles at the moment. I think it's the same as Woolies, but they might have been out of the home brand. So the cheapest I could find was $1.10 per can. And at Aldi, the one I normally get is 95 cents per can. So much of a muchness, but I needed canned tomatoes. So I just picked this up because it was very similar to the price at Aldi. So pretty okay to me. This Dolmio pasta sauce, my husband prefers this name brand to the basic Aldi one, and I'm very happy to, because he is the spaghetti bolognese maker in our household, so if he wants sauce to cook for me, I am very happy to buy that. This 6 count, 6 times 500 gram jars were $13.99, so that's $2.31 per can, or 46 cents per 100 gram. The same can, exactly the same brand at Coles would be $2.70, so a little bit more. Same thing at Woolies. So a bit of a saving, but not a huge saving. But again, I needed some pasta sauce because we were almost out. So I was happy to stock up the fridge with this name brand, and now we will have pasta sauce for the next 6 months. One thing we picked up, but I wouldn't pick it up again, is this Carmen's brand gluten-free cereal muesli. It was $18.99 for 1.2 kilos. And my husband needed this. He often has like yogurt and cereal as a snack, sort of mid-morning snack. This worked out to $1.58 per 100 grams, but you can get the same thing at Coles or Woolies for $1.13 per 100 grams. So it is not cheaper. And at Aldi, but they only have another brand available, it's $1.25. So all three stores, especially Coles and Woolies, were cheaper than picking this up at Aldi. So I wouldn't do it again, but again, I didn't have to stop at another supermarket. I do love my avocados, and I often don't get avocados in my fruit and veg box. Obviously they're not quite in season at the moment, but this bag of 5 large avocados were $9.49, which I did quick math in the store, and it works out at $1.89 per avo, which is totally fine to me because at most supermarkets that's sort of the price it will be, and I really wanted avocado that weekend. So at Coles, you'd be paying $1.80 per avo at the time where I checked the prices, and it would be $1.70 per avocado at Woolies, and Aldi would be $1.69. So very similar. I paid slightly more at Costco, but I also feel like they were larger in size, and obviously avocado is one of those weird things where you pay per unit, not per weight. So I'm still happy with that. It was a pretty okay deal. So one thing that we do love in this household is pistachios, and we hadn't had any in the house for quite a while. I pick them up from Aldi from time to time, but this huge bag at Costco was $29.99 for 1.36 kilos, which works out at about $22 a kilo, which is a really good deal actually, because at Coles you'd be paying $35 a kilo, at Woolies you'd be paying $30 a kilo, and the Aldi brand is $23 a kilo, which is where I normally buy it. So at $22 a kilo, Costco actually beat all the other ones, and now we will have pistachios for a really long time. And for the whole chicken, we did pick this up because I did want to cook it and have sort of do some meal prepping, and I actually ended up making chicken stock as well with the bones and the carcass from this chicken. But it worked out at $4.49 a kilo. At Coles at the moment you would be paying $5.50 a kilo. I found it on sale at Woolies for $4.50 a kilo, so it's pretty much the same. And at Aldi at the time it was $4.99 a kilo, but I have seen chicken as cheap as $3.99 a kilo for a whole chicken at Aldi recently. So it wasn't necessarily cheaper, but I picked that up because I needed it. And the very final thing in my very long list is extra virgin olive oil. We needed olive oil, and we found this 3-liter jug for $33.99, which works out at $11.33 per liter, which was a really good deal actually, because at Coles you'd be paying $21.30 for extra virgin olive oil that I could find. You'd be paying $18 a litre at Woolies or $14 a litre at Aldi. So substantial saving, and it will last us a really long time. And olive oil is my predominant cooking oil in this household. I do try to avoid other vegetable oils. I'm trying to start using avocado oil, which I couldn't find at Costco, so I will have to pick that up somewhere else. And that was my most recent Costco experience. We will definitely be back. And as I mentioned throughout this video, there are a couple of things that I'll be looking out for, especially now that I have a chest freezer where I can store a little bit more of these things in. But just to remind you, I spent a total of $340.08 on the food and snack items, and I saved $74.89 compared to what I would have paid at Coles or Woolworths. I do often tend to buy home brand, as I often mention in my videos. So whilst these prices are for, you know, a fancier brand than I might normally get, I think the interesting thing I found at Costco is that you can get name brand for the same price or lower in some instances than the home brand. So the thing to consider, I guess, for you and your family is what kind of items do you like? Where does price make a difference to taste? And where does it not matter very much? In hindsight, I saved so little on some of those canned goods, like those diced tomatoes, that next time I'll probably just get the Aldi version because it's about the same and I don't have to buy 12. But it is pretty good to have a stocked cabinet, and it is a nice feeling to know that I have lots and lots of things that I can use now to make meal plans and save money on groceries for my husband and I. So let me know, do you go to Costco? Do you save a lot there? What are your favorite items that I should be checking out? Knowing that if you're watching from another country, Costco might have slightly different things in stock. But anywho, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know and give me a thumbs up if you haven't already, because I love hanging out with you and I'd love to have you as a subscriber down there on the subscribe button if you're not already watching and subscribing. I'll look forward to see you in my next video.